Welcome to the real journey of the entrepreneur. The journey of any entrepreneur begins with a decision, then writing down your vision, then the execution of that vision. It is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who understand how powerful your mind is and that you can truly create the life that you deserve. It does require a unique formula that includes belief in yourself, a lot of consistency, connecting with an OG, a lot of tears, missing out on a few events and things, and taking a whole lot of risks that will allow you to see your vision and dream come to pass. This journey of the entrepreneur is from the perspective of a wonderful mother, a business owner, whose goal is to break generational barriers and normalize the process of wealth building and financial wellness through entrepreneurship, all while creating a social and give back along the way. I am sharing this journey with you and invite you to share this process with me. Let's do this together. It's my own, but you have to feel comfortable to own it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I will always support you.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, good people. Hey there. I'm back. I am back. Welcome to another episode of The Real Journey of Entrepreneurship. This is a podcast that dives into the deep and true stories behind the success and also the failures and challenges that comes with being in the space of entrepreneurship. I am your host, Anita Pearson. I am so excited to welcome you to another episode. Today's guest is one that I can say I actually know, right? And is a good friend. But this guest truly embodies resilience and also the art of the pivot. Joining me today is author James L. Wright, who, after being diagnosed with ALS in 2015, made a decision to reframe life as he knows it. In his new book, because you know I love me a good book, Reframing Life with a Terminal Diagnosis Anchored to Hope. James is not only on a personal mission, but also to help us with providing us with a blueprint. Today, we will explore how James transformed this challenge with this diagnosis into becoming a serial entrepreneur. And how, honestly, if you really look at it, having a diagnosis doesn't mean that it's the end of your journey. It's based upon your perspective. So I just want to give just a little bit about James, just a little bit, because you all know, if you've been watching the show, I always appreciate when guests tell their story because they can tell it a lot better than I can. But just a little bit. James retired from his corporate career, 20 years in financial services, as a marketing executive in 2016. He was the owner of a franchise day spa for 8 years that was in the Philadelphia area, and recently relocated to the Tampa Bay area with his wife and his 2 children. And since moving to Tampa, has become affectionately known by his babies as Daddy Uber. How cool is that? But more recently, James has been taking on a more public facing approach in this battle against ALS and raising awareness about this specific disease. And there was a number of speaking engagements, most recently in May of 2024, where James spoke at a wellness conference at the Wells Martial Art Fitness and Wellness Experience out of Atlanta, Georgia. But there's so much more that we are going to unpack today. So I'm going to shut my mouth, right? Because, I can talk, right? You all know I can talk. But I definitely want to welcome to this specific audience, James L. Wright. Excited to have you here. James!
What's up, Pierce? And my wife affectionately calls you.
Yes.
She never calls you Anita. She
Ever.
always calls you Pierce.
Ever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank
And,
you for saying yes. Yes.
Yeah, man. You told it all in the introduction.
So
What else is there to say?
there's a lot more to say, James. So
Yes.
let's unpack this because I'm holding the book, one of many. So
Right.
I want to have you start by just telling us something that may have been missing, because I don't do well with telling intros. I don't.
No, you did a good job, but anytime that I get up and I speak before people, I like to tell them that there are 3 things that I believe to my core. I believe the Word of God for my life. Number 1, I live in expectancy. Number 2, and what that means is I believe that expectation that cannot be killed is expectation that cannot be denied. So if I live in the space of expectation, of expectancy, then whatever it is I'm expecting will come to pass. And so, and the third thing that I like to um, hang my hat on is your life will follow the direction of your thoughts. So whatever it is you're thinking, whatever it is that you're saying, your life will soon follow that direction. So I try and abide by those three things and think things on purpose, so that my life goes in the direction that I desire it to go into.
All right, James, you already starting to teach and we just getting started. All right.
Hey, you know what? It's what I do.
It's what you do. All right, so James, let's take me back to 2015. 2015, 2015 was a very important year for you, specifically because that is when you received your diagnosis.
I did, and you know what? And let me just clarify for people
Mm-hmm.
if they don't know what ALS is. ALS is it stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and it's also known as Lou Gehrig's disease.
Mm-hmm.
ALS is almost always fatal for anyone who gets diagnosed with it. From the moment of diagnosis, you are expected to live 2 to 5 years, and 90% of the people who are diagnosed with ALS are random, meaning it's not a familiar or genetic scenario. And then lastly, 1 out of 300 people in their lifetime will be diagnosed with this disease. So, it is a very heavy disease to be diagnosed with. And back in 2015, when I was diagnosed with it, I remember the doctor asking me if I was in shock because when he gave me the diagnosis, I just sat there and I processed it. And my wife was on the phone, on speakerphone, because she was working in New York at the time. And I just remember him, me taking the beat and saying, "I heard you, doctor." I think his name was Zimmerman or something. Mm-hmm. And I said, "I heard you, but I don't receive what you said for my life." And from the very beginning, I'm like, I hear you, as a doctor, you're supposed to do your job and you're doing that. But as a patient, I'm going to declare that I'm going in a different direction. And my wife was very silent on the phone. You can hear a pen drop. And, being told that kind of information can be devastating. But it's those moments when you got to make up your mind. How am I going to respond to what I've been told? And at that moment, I responded in a way that said, I'm going to live, and I'm going to live well beyond this 2 to 5 year time frame. And I'm going to live to see my kids get married and have their own children and enjoy my grandchildren. That was the vision that I had for myself from that moment forward.
Wow. So I wanna lean in on a couple of things, very, very intentional things that you mentioned. One, going back to what you stated earlier in your opening about, essentially your life goes into the direction of how you think, right? And I immediately think about a scripture, as a man think, so is he. I don't know the exact scripture quote, scripture and verse, but I know the messaging behind it. So although you were told something that, you made a decision that this was not going to be what I am going to be doing and accepting going forward. I really want to unpack that because that takes a lot of, I would imagine, work, mindset, and shifting from what's being told and before you. I want to lend you the floor to just unpack what you had to do, because that was almost immediate that you said, I'm not doing this. I'm not accepting this.
All right. So, in all fairness, I have always been the kind of person that when I set a goal, I say it, I write it down, and then I figure out how do I get to that goal.
Mm,
Um, so I've known the Lord since I was 11 years old, and I've been in church um, pretty much at that point over 30, 40 years of my life. So when I was given that information by spiritual training and church experience, I already know, I've already seen people be in a situation where it looked like they couldn't go no further, or it looked like they didn't know what to do. People are talking about God makes a way out of no way. And so, as the old church folk used to say, by Christian experience, I knew these things.
mm,
So, from that very moment, I decided to think about it and approach it differently. Now, just because I made that declaration, it doesn't mean that I didn't have the thoughts of, oh, am I really going to die? What does this mean for my wife and my kids? Will they survive? How will my death impact their lives? I had those thoughts.
mm,
But because I know that your thoughts, your life will follow the direction of your thoughts, I knew that I had to change the way that I was thinking. So every time I had a negative thought, I would think of something, a promise that God made me in His Word,
mm,
and I would counter that thought. And I would do daily affirmations, and I would do it often. As often as I had a negative thought, I would start saying that promise from God, that affirmation. I would decree and declare it. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night, laying next to my wife, and she's sleeping soundly, and I'm waking up worried about, how many of these nights will I have to lay in the bed besides my covenant partner, and I would get worried. But what I decided to do is I would say those affirmations, quote those scriptures until I had, that I got peace in my spirit, and until the negative thought no longer resided in my mind. And that takes a lot of determination because you got to commit it to memory, and then you got to say it over and over and over again, almost being fanatical about it. And so, like, in business, when you don't know where you're going to get the access to capital, you don't know if you're going to get that business loan, you got to look under every rock. You got to knock on every door. You got to be tenacious. And then sometimes you have to make the best of bad choices in order to get you to the next step so that you can survive. And with ALS, it was pretty much the same thing. I had bad choices. All right, so what am I going to choose to get me to the next step? And so it becomes a very intentional way of living. If you want to live beyond what the doctors say, and really, God's word says that I will have the fullness of my days, and I believe that. So I would speak it. And you know what? The other thing is, I didn't really tell anyone about the diagnosis for about 3 years. I took that time to fortify my mind and my spirit so that whenever I decided to share that news with a person, I would be able to direct them in such a way that the way that I would deliver it would be the way that I wanted them to receive it. When you tell somebody bad news, they automatically believe the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to deliver the news in such a way that there is hope. And I learned how to do that in my 3 years of fortification of my mind and spirit.
So I want to do a follow-up, right? So at the time of you discovering this diagnosis, you had very young children. So how did you, or did you and your wife tell your children, at that time, or did you wait? Or what did that experience look like? Because now your immediate circle was to know that there were going to be some changes, maybe noticeable or not at the time, for your family nucleus.
Well, fortunately, we were doing, my wife and I would do periodic marital counseling as a check-in and maintenance for our marriage. And because of that diagnosis, we, decided to do a little bit of counseling. And the recommendation from the counselor was tell children as much as they need to know. Because, when kids are young, they don't have the capacity to understand it in the way that we do as adults. So I had to piecemeal it out to them in very simple terms. Like, daddy's body is changing. Daddy is having a little bit of trouble with his balance, but I'm going to the doctor and I expect, that we will figure this out. Not lying to them,
Right.
but, giving them a dose of reality and giving them a hope that it won't always be that way.
Okay.
So, having young kids was challenging, but more specifically, I believe that my wife felt that she was going to have to do everything. She had a partner that she anticipated living a long life with, and having someone to lean on and go back and forth. And during that time, I think she felt like she was going to have to do it all. And so she wasn't going to depend on me, and she was just going to do it. And, that was a transition in itself, because I am expecting my healing by medical breakthrough or divine intervention. And her perspective was, let's not do anything stressful, and let's get as many years as we can together and make memories. You know what? I mean, I can't really fault her for that. But in my mind, I'm like, I have a purpose, and I'm going to continue to pursue that purpose for as long as I draw breath. And that purpose is to provide for my family and to do the things that I always said I wanted to do until I can't do them no more.
So there's another layer of your nucleus, mom, right? So
Yeah.
so I read in the book that, there was, well, I'll let you share about your personal history, but more so about things that you did not want her to do, like Google, look up pictures, because as depending on how you care for yourself through this process, the photos can be a bit challenging to look at. So how did you manage mom?
Well, um, I initially told my mom, I said, "No, mom, these are the realities of this disease for other people." And I explained, many of the things that I talked about in the introduction about, life expectancy, the ratios of people who are getting it. And then I told her, I said, "My mom, I'm thinking about this totally different. I believe in my healing and I believe in my longevity because of what God has put in my heart." So I told her, "Listen, you can look up information about the disease, but don't look up any pictures because they're going to be tough. And they're going to give you an image on the inside of the worst debilitated situation. And I don't want you to have the image of me as your son in your mind and in your spirit." And to this day, she never looked up the images. And I told her, I said, "We're going to do this differently. I've seen the images in person when I've gone to the doctor. I've seen these people. It's a tough image to get out of your mind, being in a wheelchair and only being able to either move your knuckle or your neck down and neck up." I said, "It's real grim. But as long as you don't have the image on the inside of you, then we can move forward and we can have hope together." So, that was that conversation. And, the truth of the matter was, it was a little bit challenging because I had a younger brother who had died of cancer in 10 years. Let's see, 2000, yeah, 10 years before that. And so now she's got the news that her oldest son has been diagnosed with a terminal illness. And I just didn't want her internalizing and believing the worst. I wanted her to believe the best.
So thank you for sharing and framing the next question, which is what really sparked you to want to tell the story in a book?
Um, so my youngest brother, I'm one of three boys and the oldest. My youngest brother, unfortunately, also was diagnosed with cancer, and he passed in January of 24. And while he was going through his 3 years battle, he had a group of about 50 people that he was constantly in touch with, friends and family, letting them know about his journey. And I admired that about him. I never wanted to do that, but I admired that about him. And I saw the impact that it had on the people that he shared with that cared about him. So, I began to think maybe I could share a little bit more. And then, as you mentioned in your intro, um, I went to my 30th reunion from Morehouse. And one of my friends was doing a conference at this wellness center. And I arrived late, so I mean, there were doctors talking about heart health, knowing your numbers, and all this that, and the other. And when I got there, I said to my friend, "Well, would you like me to say something?" And they said, "Would you?" I said, "Yeah, I'll say something." So I got up and I gave my very first public testimony about being diagnosed with ALS. And you can hear a pin drop in the room. Many of those guys remember me when I was 19 years old. And then I was sitting in front of them with braces, a hoarse voice, and telling them the story about my brothers in cancer that I'm telling you all and your audience. And, it hit differently. And then they wanted to know what was the secret to my longevity. I said, well, first of all, it's nothing but the grace of God. I said, but secondly, if you are not having health challenges in life, make sure you go to the doctor annually, do your checkup, as you're getting older, know your numbers. Because if you happen to get a diagnosis or something in your life, and you have to learn to deal with it, you want to be in the best health that you possibly can in order to fix that challenge on. And so I was always a very healthy person, very active, going to the gym, watching my diet, not eating too much of this or that. I was really healthy until I got this diagnosis. And then the second thing that happened, I was invited by the ALS Association to do a local TV interview with Fox 13 here in Tampa. And I went on, and it was about a 4-minute segment. And I talked about the journey of ALS, and I gave people my perspective on how to live with it and how to reframe your life. And so for the second time in about 3 months, here I am talking publicly about it. And then thirdly, my wife and I got invited to a luncheon at our church. And it was kind of like they invited people who so they could give some feedback about the direction of the church for the next year. And we were chosen. So during that meeting, I asked the lead pastor, we've been coming here for 2 or 3 years, and I have never seen a chronic illness outreach group. Do you have one? And he said, no, James, we don't. We've had one at times. However, whenever someone asks me a question like that and we don't have it, then typically it means that God wants that person to head up a ministry and make sure that we can provide that. And if that's what you're going to do, we'll give you all the support that you need. Well, I think that is kind of confirmation from God that I should be more of a public advocate, because my results are really, really outstanding. And I want to give people hope in the future. Like Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you, plans for a future and not to harm you, and plans for a hope. So I looked at that 3 times as charm, as God saying, you know what, son, and now it's time for you to tell everyone what I've done for you. And so I have not been able to get that group off the ground yet. I do anticipate that it will happen. But my wife and I are leading a couples ministry at the church. We're one of many leaders. And so I'm getting really good practice about how to lead that type of a group. So that's kind of where my advocacy came around. And I was thinking, I got a lot to say. The best thing I can do is write this down. Maybe I'll write a book. And just like that, I started doing some research on how to write a book and, what it takes in November of 2024. And then in March, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and write it. And I started in March of 2025. I was done in August. And my book was available on Amazon in September.
So I want to unpack this because you are what I consider a serial entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
You self-published, but let's also talk about this other, as I mentioned in the intro about you owning a spa.
Yes. So when I got the diagnosis, I was already down the road of opening the franchise. I was like 1 year away from opening the franchise. Money was spent, money was committed. I was like down the road, and so I just said, well, people always say it ain't over till the fat lady sings. I was like, I remember Will Smith in one of his movies. I ain't heard no fat lady. And so, that's how I say it in my mind. I ain't heard no fat lady. Let's keep moving forward. And I will admit, it was a tough decision to make because my wife was not totally for it. She the stress of being a business owner would add to my decline, and I thought that having a purpose would keep my mind off of my diagnosis and give me a purpose to pursue and to move forward. During that time, I had a business partner who was going to do the business with me. This individual, after trying to find money, were not able to find their investment and decided to sue me for their partnership so that I would agree to their partnership minus their investment. Well, now, when someone takes you to court, you got to respond. I mean, you don't have a choice. So I had to respond. So on top of, opening the business, hiring employees, getting the business to run, finding the money that this individual did not provide, I was had a lien put on the business before I even started because I was not able to pay the general contractor the money that I needed to, that this individual was supposed to bring to the table. So I had a lot of challenges out the gate. And I will tell you, for 3 years, I was robbing Peter to pay Paul to try and figure out how can I stay afloat so this thing doesn't sink and take me and my entire family down with it. So, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you gotta make decisions to survive, and all the decisions are bad decisions. But You got to choose the one that's going to allow you to live and thrive a little bit longer so you can make another least bad decision, so that, your decision making opportunities get better and better. So after about 2 years, I was able to grow my business. Um, the first year I did 700,000 in sales. The next year I did 1.3. No, was it 1.3? No, it was 1.2 million in sales. And then I was on track in the third year to do 1.6. And then COVID happened. So I was able to grow my business and pay settle the dispute out of court. And even though I had all the right, it was going to cost me more money to stay in court to prove my point. And it was better to just settle and be done and move on. So for 3 years, I was stressing, doing Uber on the side, going to my business, hiring people, doing marketing, attending meetings and conferences to grow my business. And, it took a toll on my family. And it was a very dark period for us. But God. But God. And one day, that lawsuit was over and all I had was bills to pay. So I took my time and I started paying the bills as our business continued to grow. And then I could focus on really growing the business. But then COVID happened.
So James, you saying essentially that being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart, huh?
Not at all. And you know what? As a matter of fact, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to get used to making tough decisions every day, and everything will feel like it's an emergency, and you have to get to a place where you are comfortable making emergency decisions all the time, and you got to be able to do it with a smile on your face and confidence in your spirit that you're going to get through. It's tough.
It is tough. And you also talked about, the title of your book, Anchored to Hope. What does that phrase mean to you specifically today? And how, especially given you just shared a very important story on your road in this space of entrepreneurship, how can entrepreneurs really apply that into their own lives today?
Well, I talked about living in expectancy, and whether you are whatever walk of life you come from, um, people are always going to be faced with a challenge. As an entrepreneur, it may be access to capital. It might be finding the right talent, getting someone, finding a location for your business. If you're married, you might have a family situation that is, causing you grief. But whatever it is in life, you have to realize you really do have a choice. Do you want to dwell on the negative? Do you want to be living in fear, false evidence appearing real? Or do you want to decide to respond in a way that's going to give you an opportunity to elevate your situation? And it starts with your thinking. And so, Anchored to Hope is about persevering every day in spite of your circumstances in spite of it not looking like what you wanted to look like. Confessing those affirmations, changing your thought, and and pursuing whatever the goal is in life, so that you realize that you really do have a choice about how to respond to a situation and make your situation better. One of the affirmations um, that I say every day is, I am the righteousness of God, and I believe to receive God's righteousness for my life every day. And today, something good is going to happen to me. I truly believe that the forces that are for you are greater than the forces that are against you. And so, whatever your affirmation is, whatever your seed of hope, you have to confess it often, intentionally, and on purpose. And enough times that you cannot be convinced otherwise. That is a determination you have to have about your business, about your life, about anything that's a challenge to you.
So I want to unpack just curiosity, right? Because you mentioned in our conversation about having a really a wellness team, right? How did you know who to select, to help you to continue to live like the Magic Johnson of ALS? How does that work for you now?
Well, for me, I've had time on my side, and over the course of the years, I've tried going to a chiropractor, making sure that I'm aligned properly. I've tried stretching. I've tried Thai massage, regular massage therapy. I've tried medical marijuana. I've tried LED therapies, and all of these things have helped me on some level or not. And I've tried acupuncture, which, interestingly enough, acupuncture helps, but you have to do it on a regular basis, and it can be really expensive. By trying all these things, I was going to the ALS quarterly reviews, where you take 3 hours and you meet with 8 or 9 different practitioners. And so I began to identify the ones that were most important for me at that stage of my life. And it was my primary doctor, my neurologist, and then my physical therapist. The occupational therapist was important as well. So that was kind of the foundation of my wellness team building out. And then I looked at the exercises that I was doing at the gym, and I made sure that I continued doing that because that was a part of my wellness activities, in addition to physical therapy, going to these quarterly clinics, taking my medicine daily. And then, after I've tried all of these other things, some things worked, some things didn't. Medical marijuana was a good thing for me. I'm not a smoker, so I did the edibles, and I found that my voice sounded better. I slept better at night. I was in less pain in my body, and so, you know, it's really about doing what works for you, and that makes you what makes you feel good about yourself, and then being consistent on those things day in and day out, so that you have a therapy program that you follow, and then you have people who are on your team, some that you see weekly, some that you see quarterly, some that you might see monthly, and that was the beginning of how I built my wellness team, and I use that as a foundation to drive me on a daily basis towards um, having better health.
So, for those who are watching on video, I am showing Anchor to Hope. James, what's next for you? Any new projects coming up, speaking engagements, or new books that's coming up on a horizon?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I have a second book coming out probably in March of 2026. It is the conclusion to this book, and I'm doing monthly podcasts and interviews all the time. Um, you guys can follow me on any of my social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. I see it scrolling on the bottom of the screen. And, writing the book is my next, the second book is my next project. And then in April of next year, I will be sending a goal to raise 10 grand for this ALS association here for the ALS walk. And I want to raise 10,000 and have 100 people walking with me this year. Last year I had 35 and I raised 5,000. So this year I want to have 100 people walking with me, and I want to raise 10,000 or more, at least 10, for the ALS association. So I got a few things on my calendar.
You sound like you're gonna be more than that. Like you're gonna be vacationing and all this other good stuff.
Oh yeah.
So, James, you know what? I want to thank you for taking time out of your daddy duties, right? Because you still have daddy duties to do, to come and share a portion of your story. Now,
I'm so happy that you invited me and that I was able to come on and share it. My objective is to inspire, uplift, and motivate people to be the best version of themselves. And I really believe that whether you have a chronic illness diagnosis or not, I believe the best in people. And I'm always looking for a way to help them bring it out of themselves.
all right, James, I'm not going to let you go as of yet. All the guests get the goodness after the interview. So some quick rapid questions.
All right.
Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Smoothies or ice cream these days?
Smoothies.
Pizza or burgers?
Definitely pizza. Yeah.
Final question, usually not rapid, but in the next 3 years, what do you want your legacy to be as a part of this leg of your journey?
I pivoted from a day-to-day entrepreneur to an author, and I hope to have been doing some type of chronic illness outreach. I would like to have written at least 4 books by the time And I would like to establish a foundation for people who are diagnosed with chronic illness so that they can go out and live life and enjoy themselves and make memories with their family. I really want that to be a legacy that I build and that I support through sales of the book, um, you know, public speaking engagements, you name it. So I just believe that if people live with a purpose, then their situation will change.
My dear brother James, thank you for joining us today and reminding us about the importance that entrepreneurship, life, and that everything that we are doing right now is about how we respond to the changes.
Yes.
You all, this is my friend's book. You better buy it. Thank you. Love you, James.
Yeah, love you too.
All right.
God
Thank you.
bless.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye. I'm going to say it again. This is my friend's book. You can find it, author James Wright. James has a very, very wonderful vlog on TikTok. Please don't hesitate to follow, like, share. But this was good stuff. Not only a friend, but also just sharing a bunch of ways to continue to be inspired about the things that are happening. Because the truth is, life does happen. It's how you choose to respond to life. Some very, 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 very positive takeaways that came away is one, James takeaway: your life goes in the direction of your thoughts, right? I cannot tell you, I started to, read the book, and one of the things that struck me personally is really understanding about how you speak, self-talk, positivity, how you focus in on your voice when things happen. Because again, life does happen. It's about how you choose to navigate those specific spaces. If you want the book, please check out authorjameslwright.com. The book is there. I have it. And be on the lookout for more information as it comes up in your specific area. James is on social media platforms at James Wright on TikTok, James.Wright number 15 on TikTok, and also Instagram, and author James L. Wright on his webpage. So also, as we are raising awareness to help find a cure and supporting your local ALS association, you can check out www.als.org. So, good friends, thank you for taking the opportunity to join us today. It is so good to have you check in, tap in. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Please do not hesitate to like, share, and follow us. We are on 11375 on all the platforms. And also, we are on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you can find us there. So long, good people. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you so much for joining. This week, I have been dealing with the role that I play as a leader, manager, business owner. And something that came up frequently, specifically this week, deals with the fact of how we treat the people that partner or choose to work with our business. And every day there is always a choice to uplift or a choice to bring down. And that choice is daily. Do I minimize the people that are helping to grow my vision, my dream, Or do I provide a space where we are growing and developing together? It's not easy. Every day is a choice. Welcome to 11375. My name is Anita Pierce, and I am your Chief Experience Officer. At 11375, we offer strategic alignment solutions specific to you and your business goals, and also connecting everything with social impact. So if you are looking for a really amazing organization where we help you to focus your strategy and connecting it with social impact, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are on all the social platforms, and you can contact us at 11375.